What is going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video. And today I kind of just wanted to talk about transitioning over from Naruto and kind of into Boruto, how I felt about this first volume of the series, kind of in relation to the first volume of Naruto, and just in general how I felt it was as like a standalone series. Um, so yeah, I will just get straight into it then. So I enjoyed the volume in parts, but I do see some issues with it that I'm not so fond of. A few things I did like. I kind of did like how they showed at the beginning of the volume uh, some far way into the future, and how Boruto's fighting. I don't know who this is at this point, but Boruto's fighting him, and he's got a scar on his eye and stuff. And I think that's kind of interesting. It builds up to a certain event, and I think when that character's introduced, we're going to be wondering kind of how if why he's evil or who he is. So I think that's going to be quite cool. I hope they introduce him in a cool way and he's a character that's interesting. I'm not sure if he's been shown yet in the up-to-date chapters or volumes, but he does seem like quite an interesting character, so that was kind of cool. Another thing that I liked is I kind of liked how it was different to Naruto at the beginning. Boruto doesn't want to become Hokage, and actually Sasuke's Sakura's kid does want to become Hokage in this story. Boruto actually resents Naruto for being Hokage because he has no time to spend with him. And I kind of like that dynamic, how it's kind of disjointed within the family, and it's not just like a perfect continuation of a family in this series. And I also like how Boruto is going to be trained by Sasuke. I think that's quite cool. That's another thing that I liked. I kind of like how it's something different from what you got in Naruto. Uh, so that was kind of cool, and I also liked the kind of how the series was modernized. I like how stuff has evolved from what it is in Naruto. There's a lot more kind of technology and everything just kind of looks more modern to how it looked in Naruto. Obviously, as time passes, things should get to look better. So I kind of like how uh, the village has grown and changed, because if it was exactly the same as it was in Naruto, they wouldn't really feel like the world's kind of moving. So that's another thing that I liked about the volume, and you can kind of see the change in times with the inclusion of those people that I can't remember the exact name of them. These guys here, a company who gives Boruto weapons that allow him to use their Rasengan and stuff. But yeah, I do like that kind of stuff. That's the stuff that I majorly liked about the volume. The action wasn't too bad either. It was kind of clearer than some of the last fights that you get in Naruto, so that was quite good. I did like this fight between Sasuke and this guy. Uh, and that's pretty much the end of stuff that I really liked about the volume, or I enjoyed. Uh, I also kind of like the little appearances from characters just to see how they've changed. Although there are some parts of it I didn't like, and I'll talk about that a bit when I get towards the end of the video with the last thing I'll talk about. Um, but now to get to the things I didn't like so much about the series or the first volume. Um, I wasn't kind of fond of the power scaling in the series. There's not really any way to tell the strength of the characters in relation to everyone around them. Like Boruto can obviously he uses that power thing to use the Rasengan, but he does learn how to do it as well, and he learns to do it before he even does the tuning exams. Whereas Naruto learns the Rasengan about 17, 18 volumes into Naruto, so there's not really too much way of telling the scale of power for the characters. So I think that's something that needs to be improved upon. Obviously, if you're coming from a series like Naruto, where there's a clear kind of trend in how powerful characters are getting as they learn new moves, obviously with some exceptions here and there, but it's reasonably easy to tell the power of a character. In this series, there's no reference uh, because I feel like they're learning the abilities very quickly, and obviously maybe that's just because they don't want them to be seen to going through the same stuff that obviously their parents went through, but I just think that there needs to be some sort of clearer way to show the power of characters in the series. And if you compare it to the first volume of Naruto, yeah, I've got my very yellowed copy of Naruto Volume 1 here. In the first volume of Naruto, you get a clear distinction of the characters, their motives, and a bit of lore on the world. Uh, and and um and then you get to see kind of how far away they are from where they need to be. Obviously, Kakashi makes them say all they want and their dreams and stuff, and uh, obviously Naruto says he wants to be a Hokage, and Sasuke just says he wants to kill someone. But you get to see how far away from where they need to be that they are when they're fighting Kakashi. He's the reference of power at the beginning of the series that you get, and obviously by the end of it, Naruto is stronger than Kakashi, so you can kind of see, I guess, Kakashi is a base for power at the beginning of the series, and you can kind of use him as a base for power throughout the series. So having a character like that is needed. I guess you can kind of use Naruto as that, but we haven't really seen Boruto properly fight with him. So I just want some sort of fight to tell Boruto's power, and that's just something I didn't really think was shown too much in this. And the next thing that I didn't so much enjoy was that there was kind of a lack of motivation for the characters. Obviously, you know that that Boruto just wants to fight Naruto and become stronger than him, but you don't really have too much to feel or care about these characters because their characters aren't really explored that deep. I think that a better exploration of the characters was this by Kishimoto, the kind of bridge volume between Naruto and Boruto, which shows, I think it's pronounced Saradara or something like that. You get to see her characterization best in this volume. I think this is the best example of characterization for a Boruto character. I think this does a better job of exploring the character and how they feel and who they are than in Boruto Volume 1. I feel like Boruto Volume 1 might be trying to do just a bit too much in the time that it has, and might be focusing a bit too much on the Naruto characters, considering this is Boruto's story. As he says in the first couple of pages, it is his story and it is about him. So he should be the main character and he should be what's being focused on more. Another thing I didn't really enjoy that much is how quickly they got to the tuning exams. I wasn't really a fan of that, but hopefully the fight's quite cool in the next volume. What I do like is how the tuning exams have changed as well. That's quite cool. So I hope to see a bit more from it, because obviously the tuning exams covered quite a bit of Naruto from like volume 6 to 16. So I just hope that you get something out of it from this series, because the tuning exam is supposed to show the power of characters and help them evolve, and it's supposed to have something important in the arc like it did in Naruto. So I'm hoping that something important happens in this arc, other than it just being tossed in there as fan service without having any relevance to the plot. But another thing that I actually missed out that I did enjoy, I think that they might be able to fix the problem that Naruto had with the third character that wasn't really boring or couldn't keep up with the main two characters. Obviously, that being Sakura, she kind of was tossed aside at the beginning. She was part of Team 7 and that cell, but as the series went on, she kind of got left in the dust because I don't think Kishimoto wrote her perfectly. So I think that Mitsuki in this series can change that trend. I really like him as a character, and I think this chapter at the end is probably the best chapter of the volume, because you get a lot of kind of who he is and a lot of his backstory, and him using Sage Power looks really, really good. That's probably the best piece of artwork you'll get in this volume. It looks really, really nice. And I could kind of just like him as a character, and I think that he can definitely be a better third character than Sakura was. So that's kind of hopeful there. But that's kind of my opinion on the volume. I enjoyed some stuff about it and others not so much. I think it just ultimately comes down to the fact that there's not a lot of lore for the series to focus on. Obviously in Naruto you had a lot of lore. Even from the first volume you had the Nine Tails, the previous Shinobi Wars and stuff, but because we've seen all of those events transpire in the series of Naruto, when you get to Boruto there's not really much much to talk about that happened previously because we've already seen all of that. So I think that it was a good idea to kind of go forward in the future instead of backwards, because then it's have something to look forward to. So I did like that, but I think that the problem is that there's just not enough lore for the characters to make this series as interesting as Naruto was, because it doesn't really feel like it's going anywhere right now. I mean, in this first volume, you should have some sort of goal established, but nothing was really established in this volume. So I'm hoping that something happens that changes it, and there is kind of a goal established for the series, because right now it doesn't really feel like it's going anywhere. There's not really much for the characters to do. So, like I said, I hope that changes. And I just, yeah, because the characters do seem like they have potential to be enjoyable characters. It's just I hope they're used correctly and used well and explored well, and they bring new kind of features and abilities to ones that we saw in Naruto. And the last thing I kind of wanted to talk about was the artwork. That is the weakest part of the series of Boruto. Obviously, you probably hear this a lot, that the Boruto art isn't great, but I mean, I didn't think it would bother me that much, but it is quite bad. One thing I really don't like is the way that he draws eyes. I'm not a fan of that, the way the eyes are drawn, and just generally the artwork isn't great. There are a few characters that appeared in Naruto that were in this volume, and I really genuinely couldn't tell who they were supposed to be from the original Naruto series, because the art just looks different. I don't think Sasuke is drawn that well either, and I think that you could argue that the art is supposed to be different. It's a different manga, kind of different series, but the problem is we do kind of have a point of reference for how these characters should look, because Kishimoto, as I previously talked about, has done this volume where he included characters like Boruto and the aged Sasuke, and they just look so much better. You're getting such better artwork for the characters in this volume, and look at that, it's just really well drawn. From his 72 volumes of experience, you can tell that he's definitely got better. Like if you look at this volume and then look at the first volume of Naruto, there's such an improvement there. It's ridiculous. You can tell that he's definitely improved as an artist. So the problem when you go into Boruto is that you have that point of reference for how the character should look, and then you get into Boruto and it's just not as good, and decreases in quality quite a bit. But one thing I did actually really like, as I previously mentioned, was the way that fights are drawn, and I think that that's definitely a positive. If the fights continue like this, I might actually prefer the way that the fights are drawn in Boruto to the way they are drawn, especially towards the back end of Naruto, where there's just a lot going on in the fights. But I do have hope for the series. There are quite a few gaping problems there that I hope are patched up. And I might do another video maybe when I get up to date and just see if it's improved or not. I'm kind of looking forward to that Momoshiki fight though, because the episode in the Boruto anime for that fight was some of the best animation I've ever seen, and I'm just curious to see how it's drawn. But that's basically it. I just wanted to talk about kind of transitioning over from Naruto. I think if you enjoy Naruto and you're open to a continuation of a series, then definitely read Boruto. But if you're happy with the way the Naruto concluded and you don't really need any more storyline for characters in the series, and you don't really want anything new, and you're just happy with the way Naruto ended, then there's not really a need to get into Boruto. But if you're buying the first volume of Boruto, I recommend this volume here, because it's kind of helps you gauge a bit more of the characters and who they are. So yeah, that's the end of the video now. Hopefully you enjoyed. Let me know your opinions about Boruto in the comment section below, and if it gets any better, if you're up to date on recent chapters and stuff. But yeah, other than that, have a great day and peace.